Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel. I am actually coming to you guys a couple weeks after I filmed. I think it's been at least a couple weeks since I filmed what's going to be the majority of this video. So if you guys have been following along with a few of my videos, like wrap-ups and like maybe even a previous reading vlog, I have stated that I wanted to do reading vlogs for each of the books in the Throne of Glass series because I was reading them for the first time. Besides Throne of Glass, I had read that one once before, and the Assassin's Blade I read before I decided I wanted to do this. So I have a reading vlog up for Crown of Midnight, which I will link up in the iCards and in the description if you guys are interested and going to check that out. However, after I believe 2 weeks of not posting my Heir reading vlog when I initially planned to, I decided to switch it up and do something different. I think I have mentioned a couple times now that Heir reading vlog, the raw footage was like 2.5 hours, and the way I was doing it when I was watching through, I just wasn't really happy with the way that I filmed the reading vlog, because pretty similar to what I did for Crown of Midnight, I was just coming on and doing updates every so often, usually every day, to talk about what had happened in the last part that I had read since I did it, since I did the previous update. I think I had watched one other person's reading vlogs. I think it's April from Aprilius Maximus or something like that. I will link her channel down below, and she has also been doing reading vlogs for the Throne of Glass series. However, she's rereading them, so while she was doing it, she wasn't necessarily talking about as much as I was trying to fit in, because I was reading it all for the first time, and like I said, and I was doing a lot of speculating and trying to try to piece together what was possibly going to happen based off of what I had read, and also based off of spoilers I had heard previously about the series. So it was just a lot that was going into it that I just wasn't really happy with the way that it was coming out, even though I hadn't finished editing all of the footage. I just was not having a good time. I didn't think that it looked good. Like I said, I just didn't think the quality of the video was really all that good. So I decided to not try to slog through that and try to pull something together. Pretty much what I decided to do, instead of like completely throwing away all that footage that I took, I am going to just take the wrap-up portion that I have at the end of each vlog and use that to do a Throne of Glass series wrap-up / review. And I believe I'm going to have it technically in 3 parts. So as you're seeing this is part 1. All of my intros won't be this long because I just wanted to explain why I decided not to do my reading vlogs, especially after constantly saying that I was going to be doing them. With all that being said, I have made this intro super long, but now I should be getting into my Heir wrap up before I move into Queen of Shadows, and then I'm pretty sure at the end of both of those videos I wrapped it up, so I shouldn't be back. That's all me right now has to say. So let's kick it over to a couple weeks ago me, or however long ago that was, to start my Heir wrap up. So this is pretty much me just wrapping up my final thoughts, or my overall thoughts of Heir. As far as this book goes, overall generally, I was surprised by how much I was invested in this one. Now don't get me wrong, I think Crown of Midnight was more exciting than Throne of Glass, because Throne of Glass, it had exciting bits, but overall there was nothing happening. It was a lot of waiting around until the very last moment. So Crown of Midnight was a little bit of a step up, but after reading this I realized that there still wasn't much going on in Crown of Midnight either. I'm going to put this down because I don't want to hold this up the whole time. I think this book gave me closer to the feelings that I had while I was reading the Assassin's Blade, and it's kind of a little fuzzy because I read that, I feel like, pretty early on in the year, and I don't remember all the details about that one, but I know that before Heir, that was the one that I was the most excited about, because that one was where there was a lot more going on, and Selena had a lot more interactions with other people outside of being, the people in the palace and all of these things. So in this one, I have already stated this, but at the beginning of this one, we're picking up not long after the events of the end of Crown of Midnight. So pretty much all of the characters that we have been following in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight have split up. And not only are we following them, but we also meet a few new characters in Fire as well. So with Selena going to Winland with her mission to kill the crown prince and the king of Winland, she was sent to kill them, but you know, she was just like, I'm not going to do that, even though I probably should, so Kel doesn't die. But she's just like, she was trying to find another way, and she had pretty much decided that she was gonna set out to go and see the Fey Queen Maeve to get answers about the word keys or word gate or something, like get all the answers about some things that she thinks the king is up to. And in the course of that, she meets a lot of new people. So she ends up going to a territory that once she gets so far, they have magic. And in her specific surroundings, she first meets Maeve. She also meets Ron, or actually I think she meets Ron first, because he comes to get her to take her up to Miss Word or wherever the Demi Fae are staying. But she meets Maeve, she meets Rowan, she meets a bunch of different Demi Fae, which is where she ends up staying for the majority of her trip to Winland. And she also meets some of Rowan's friends. I don't even know if they consider each other friends, but they were all, I don't know how to explain it. They call it the cadre, or at least Selena calls it the cadre, and it's like 5 other people, I think, in Rowan's group. I don't know how best to explain that. But like I said, she meets like a whole new cast of characters, so she's surrounded by a bunch of new people. But then we're also following Dorian and Kel, and they both interact with not necessarily new characters, or at least Kel doesn't necessarily interact with new characters, at least the ones that we see, but they're characters that we have met, I believe, in Crown of Midnight, and were mentioned at least in Crown of Midnight in some type of way, but we get more details on them. And then Dorian, he is kind of alone, and he doesn't really have anyone, because you know, Kel had found out that he had magic at the end of Crown of Midnight, and Kel was pretty much like terrified. Like, he found out that Selena's Fae, and then I think at the very end he found out that she is lost princess, or lost rightful heir to Terrasen, and he's like terrified, and he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what he has done by sending her off to Winland. But then he also found out in that same instance, or in that same situation, that Dorian has magic. So he has almost been avoiding Dorian, and his excuse was like, the less I know, the better, if the king ever questions me about it. So their friendship has drifted away, and Dorian is kind of just drifting off, and he's doing his duties as the crown prince, but he also is just like, I have no one to talk to. So he ends up running into Sorsha, which is a healer. Well, I don't want to say running into her, because she hadn't been around, but he finally notices her, and she becomes his person that he confides in, and you know, all of these things throughout the majority of this book. And then on Kel's end, we also have, like, he ends up interacting with the rebels, because Adian, which was one of the warriors from Terrasen, who's actually Selena's cousin, he comes to the palace in this book, and he is around for the entirety of this book. And Adian is not a fan of Dorian or Kel, but due to certain circumstances, Adian and Kel end up intertwined, and they start working together with the rebels. And Kel is kind of like in this weird position where he's like, I don't want to defy the king, but I want to help Dorian. I'm going to get into that too. We have a few new characters that some we have met before, others we are seeing like full-fledged for the first time. They were mentioned, like Adian was mentioned before, but this is the first time we're getting to see him in what he is in this current day. And then we also get the perspective of a new character, which everyone seems to love, which is Manon. She is a witch from the Blackbeak Coven. She is the heir to the Blackbeak Coven, and she has her own I don't know if they're called covens, like her own coven within the big, like, overall name coven, which is called 13, which I'm sure most people have heard. If you haven't already read, I'm sure you have heard of this, because this is one of those, like, character groups that a lot of people talk about. Like I was saying, we're following a lot of different characters, a lot of different storylines, and we're kind of getting character development and a lot of seeing how characters take the situation that they're in and how that situation starts to shape them into the person that they're supposed to be by the end of the series. And I know this is only the third book. I mean, it's only 7 books, but this series, like, I know these characters still have a pretty long way to go. I think in this book, the person who has grown the most is probably Selena / Aelin / Alentia Fireheart, whatever they want to call her. She has like a bunch of names by the end of this book. I think she went on the biggest journey because she pretty much, throughout her time in Winland, she was put in all of these situations where she had to confront her past. So, you know, we were kept in secret. But like I said, at the end, if you've watched my kind of midnight vlog, you will see me have discussed this already. But we find out that she, like I said, is the lost princess, heir, whatever, to Terrasen. And when she goes off to Winland to meet the Fae Queen, the Fae Queen knows who she is. And when they first meet, she calls her by her name that she was given at birth, and she pretty much gives her this challenge of, I will not give you answers until you are acceptable enough to make it into Doranel, which is the territory where all the, I think, like, full-blooded, pure-blooded, however you want to call it, Fae live. And then I think if any demi-Fae are deemed important enough or have enough magic, then they're allowed to live there too. If not, then they're kind of, if they're in Winland and they're in this, like I said, Mistward, this like in between place where they can train and try to get enough power, whatever, to be granted access to this specific territory. Maeve tells her, like, you need to get the approval of my general, or I don't even know what Rowan is to her, but she's like, you need to get Rowan's approval, and until you get that and are allowed into Doranel, I won't give you any of the answers that you want. So Selena sets about training, and she has to overcome a lot because, like I said, she has to confront her past, and she has to eventually accept what she has done and move on and be willing to embrace who she is, what she has become, and use that to move forward in order to fight the fight that needs to be fought. Her perspective was one of my favorites to read from because it was the most interesting, I think, because it was the most new, which is weird to say because all of these perspectives were new because there were a lot of different things happening than had been previously happening. But this was the first time we got to experience Fae openly using magic and embracing, you know, not trying to cower away from their power. And we go through this process with Selena as she's working through this problem that she has had for the past 10 years since she ran away. And we get to the root of all of her issues and why she feels like she shouldn't go back, and how she feels she let everyone down from her land, and just basically we find out about her. Like, it's kind of, in this book we kind of get her laid out. We get a book of Selena and we get to flip through every page of everything she has done, every feeling that she has had, all the time she feels worthless and how she shouldn't survive and all these things. And I really enjoyed being able to see the process of her working through those issues and then healing and taking charge, taking that position that she has and using it for good, or starting to use it for good. And don't get me wrong, she does still have her selfish moments, and you know, she is still Selena while she's also becoming Aelin, if that makes sense at all. And she's struggling and she has her moments of depression, and she's going through a lot, but she is trying to work her way through it. And I really appreciated that. And also along with that, I appreciated Rowan coming in, and although he was kind of a dick in the beginning, just being completely honest, I appreciated how he came in and eventually he offered her friendship. And he was also, I don't know if it's necessarily like the same kind of pain that she's dealing with, but they have both gotten to a point where they're broken and they decide to come together and heal together and work with each other. And I just loved it so much. I love the fact that this wasn't automatically a romance, because I got a feeling that it's definitely going that way. I know spoilers, so just in case you guys have read this but haven't read further, I'm not going to get into what I know just because I don't want to give anything away. But I just really appreciated the friendship that the two of them had. Although at times it did seem like there was like slight romantic gestures towards each other, I didn't feel like it was overly done. And like I was saying pretty much this whole time, I just really enjoyed the connection that they had, and how they, after they stopped bickering and fighting with each other all the time, which is so childish at times, but it was kind of funny at other times. I appreciated how both of them started to open up to each other and how they grew together. So that was one of my favorite perspectives, and I really enjoyed reading from them. I think my favorite perspective in this entire book was Manon, or at least the majority of her chapters. There were some moments that were a little dull, or maybe that wasn't this book. I've already started Queen of Shadows, so I might be getting stuff a little mixed up. But Manon, I didn't know what to expect, obviously, because this was the first time she was mentioned at all. So we heard about the witches briefly, and I think in Crown of Midnight we meet Bobby Yellowlegs or something like that. But besides that, we know nothing. And Manon was this completely new character, no background or anything about her. But from the very beginning, I was surprised by how much I was drawn in by her character. The very first time she had her first chapter, didn't know what to expect. These men were coming to try to kill her because they thought she was a witch, and she pretty much slaughtered them and hunted them down, the ones that escaped, or she let escape, to like just have a chase. And it was like really strange, but I was really intrigued because this is the first character, and I don't know how to explain it, because Selena was described as being like a really badass assassin, you've heard it all. But Manon was the first character that we have seen like just go out for blood no matter what. And I mean, it wasn't like these men were completely innocent. However, like, she didn't have any hesitation about killing them at all. But like I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my phone timer, she didn't have any hesitation at all when it came to killing those men. And then as we get to see more and more of her, we get to learn about her background, and we get a mix of who she is, where she came from, also what these witches are being gathered for. So pretty early on in her chapters, we find out that the king of Ardenland has called all these, I think it's called the Iron Teeth, witch clans to come in and be part of his army. Manon was such an interesting character because Manon's grandmother says that they were born without hearts, they don't have a soul, they live for the bloodlust, and that's pretty much all there is to them. Like, they live to be cruel. But she has this mentality where, she does whatever she wants. But she has moments throughout this book where she questions what exactly she's doing, or really why she's doing some of these things. And she's going on this journey herself, because while she is in charge of the majority of the witches in her specific coven, like in the Black Boot clan or whatever it is, she still has to answer to someone else. And when she makes a decision that can be seen as weak, she's always questioned. And the way that these witches run things, or at least the way her grandmother runs things, is like whenever her grandmother is unhappy with the decision she makes, she takes it out physically on Manon, which pretty much all of them do. So Manon makes a lot of decisions, or at least a few of them, she ends up making certain decisions which her grandmother isn't really happy about. I can't wait to see when she realizes, like, I think by the end of this book she is starting to realize some of the things that her grandmother has been doing, or how her grandmother has been manipulating not only her but the entire Black Bee Coven. It was really interesting seeing her, and I think most of her chapters, at least, I was really invested in. She was the one that I was most curious about throughout this entire book. As far as Dorian, there wasn't too much going on with Dorian. I think he might be one of my favorite characters. as far as what has happened in the first 3 books so far. I feel like he has come a long way in this book. He like is kind of openly defying his father, and I think a lot of that has to do with him finally having magic, and him realizing that and trying to figure out what to do with that. And now that Selena's gone and he doesn't have Kel, because Kel has pretty much been avoiding him, he has to kind of find his own place, and he's struggling with that a little bit, but he's also trying to work through it. And it just, I think Dorian is like, I really enjoy his character because he was speaking a lot of truth in this book. There was a moment when Kel came to him and they were talking about something, and Dorian was just like, you can't choose which parts of Selena you want to like, or you can't choose which parts of her you want to accept and which you don't. And he's pretty much telling him, like, just because you only saw this portion or you only wanted to see this portion doesn't mean that everything else isn't her. And that made me think back on those moments in The Crown of Midnight when, like, she, like, at the very beginning when she was first coming back and, like, bringing these heads and hands and stuff like that, after they was thinking she was butchering people, and they kind of, like, took a step back, like, this is who she is. And although Dorian had that moment, he had this moment in this book where he's just like, you have to accept all of her, none of her, because you can't just pick and choose. And I was just like, yes. And he was trying to tell him the same thing, and Kel was like pretty much in denial. And like, I just appreciated that Dorian, like I said at the when I first started talking, he came a really long way from where he was in the first book. And I think he's starting to realize that he needs to take a step in a certain direction in order to, as far as some of the other characters, Adian was another one where we saw him a lot when we were following Kel, but we also saw him in his own. Like I said, he came to the palace at the beginning of this book, and quickly we find out that he is working with the rebels. He heard the rumors that Aelin is possibly alive, and he doesn't know whether or not to believe it until it's confirmed by Kel. And he is pretty much working with the rebels, like I said, to try to find a way to bring down the king. I feel like Adian, I'm really going to like him. He's one of those complex characters. He has almost, I don't want to say he has the same role, but he almost kind of did the same thing that Selena did, except he did a little bit more. He took on this persona as being a certain way in order to do his best to help his people. Adian has made so many sacrifices that we don't completely know all of. As far as Kel, I was frustrated with him through a lot of the book, and I can see how Sarah J. Maas pretty much set him up to like take a downfall as a character. It's almost, well, not almost, it's like what she did with Tamlin in her other series that she had. I think in this one it was more that Kel almost tried to be indifferent in a lot of situations, and we were at this point where it's like, there's no way you can be indifferent, or there's no way you can stay neutral. You need to take a stand and like take a side. And he didn't want to do that. Kel did a lot of, he wanted to dislike Selena because she didn't tell him the truth, and because she has magic, and because, all of these things that he was just like, well, she's truly an assassin and a killer, because he found out that she's Fae and that she's actually this long lost princess of Terrasen. He was just using all of those things to make him angry, and using that anger to give him a reason not to act on anything. And then he was trying to also say that only reason he was doing any of this was to try to find a way to help Dorian, and that was pretty much the entire reason why he got wrapped up with Adian and trying to help the rebels, or working with the rebels. But the entire time he was just like, I don't know why I'm working with these people. They're the rebels. I probably should report them, but I'm doing this for Dorian, so I can't. And I was just like, you're being really dumb right now. It took him literally the entire book. It took someone getting killed in front of him by the king, or not literally by the king, but the king ordering someone to get killed in front of him before he finally made the decision to step over the line on the side of good, and I don't know if that's like the best term or anything. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed this way more than I enjoyed Crown of Midnight and Throne of Glass. As you can expect, there is a lot that's going on, and all these characters are starting to prep for a war, and we don't have all the details about that yet, but we're getting to that point of understanding what the big bad of this series is. And this was the most interesting book of the ones I've read, and I feel like this one is a big one that focuses on characters and their development. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It'd probably be like between a 4, maybe 4.5. I didn't know where to settle it, so I just gave it a 4 stars for now. But like I said, definitely my favorite book so far, and like I said, I have already started Queen of Shadows. I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series. I think that's all I have for now. Hey, so it is Tuesday the 27th, I believe, of November, and I am here to oh, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting sick, so got an itch in my throat and it's just not doing too well, but I wanted to get this done and not wait too long after finishing up this video. But yesterday, which was Monday that I'm filming this, I actually finally finished Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. So I wanted to do my overall thoughts and wrap up this video. I think at the moment this is currently my favorite book in the series. I thought it would have been Heir of Fire, but I feel like this book, it had the moments that I really enjoyed of Heir of Fire, but they were intensified in this book. So in Queen of Shadows, we get to see a lot of the different characters coming together and interacting with each other. So when comparing this book to Heir of Fire, there were a lot of different perspectives, and we got a few new characters that were introduced. But the problem that was happening with Heir of Fire was a lot of the characters had their separate moments, and I understood why that was happening, because we had to get to know these people. I'm gonna put this down because I'm not gonna hold this up for the entire time I'm talking. But like, I understood in Heir of Fire that we had to be introduced to all of these people and see what they were doing on their own and get to learn their motivations before we got to see them come together and interact. So in Queen of Shadows, the majority of this book was being able to see these characters interact with different people or come together and interact with people that they had already been around, but circumstances have drastically changed in this book. So at the end of Heir of Fire, we had Kel, Dorian, and Adian all in the same area, and they were in a situation where they were all together until the very end, where they all end up getting split up again. And then Aelin and Rowan are together, but at the end of Heir of Fire as well, they're split up because Aelin is like, I need to go back to Rifthold as Selena, and she's like, I can't have you there because, you know, there's no magic here, obviously, and you come in, it's not going to be a good thing. So they split up. The only character that we were introduced to in Heir of Fire that didn't have much of a change as far as the people they were around was Manon. It was slightly different by the end of Heir of Fire because her and her clan, which, you know, the 13, and then a few of the other covens from the, or a few of the other, smaller covens from like the big overall covens, were sitting with her to Marath, where they are basically getting started on the next part of their training and getting prepped for this war. So pretty early on in this book, we have Aelin / Selena. She's still going by kind of both names, but mainly Selena, because she comes back to Rifthold. When she ends up meeting up with Kel, she quickly finds out that Adian, her cousin, is locked up in the castle. So she's working with Kel and Erebin to break him out, and, you know, so he's not executed by the king. And that's how Lysandra ends up coming into the picture, and her and Aelin form this really strong friendship, and I really appreciated that because we haven't gotten to see Selena or Aelin, whatever, have like that female connection since Nehemia was killed in Crown of Midnight. It was really nice to see them have that friendship with each other. And eventually Rowan comes back. Adian you know, they break 80 and out, and all of them end up working together. And I just really enjoy being able to see them interacting, and how some of these characters coming together even though they haven't seen each other for 10 years, how they realize that people can change a lot in 2 years, but like in certain situations family is still family no matter what. And like they were always willing to accept each other no matter their past, except Kale was like the one exception, and he wanted to. We're not going to get back into that. Another character that was brought up in this book, who was mentioned in a previous book but didn't make a physical appearance until this book, was a lead. Now, a lead was another one of those characters, or another one of those people who came from Terracing, but we find out that she's alive. She's actually being held captive by her uncle, and she is in Marath. The biggest part about all of this was being able to see so many of the characters in different situations and interacting with each other. And even the moment, like even moments where they were fighting with each other, like seeing Aelin and Manon's first interaction, their first time meeting, it eventually leads to them fighting, or Aelin ends up saving Manon when she's about to die, and obviously that's gonna lead to something on later on. She had this moment, she was like, well, basically like she could feel the threads of fate pulling these two people together, and that's what she felt for Manon. So I got a feeling that eventually they're gonna come together, they're gonna be fighting on the same side of this war, even though as of right now Manon's still a part of this army that is supposed to be fighting against Aelin and everyone that she's with. But I'm sure it's all going to work out for the best. Also, another moment I was not expecting in this book, we got to see Aelin with Fleetfoot again, and it was so sweet. I know Fleetfoot wasn't really a big thing since the first and possibly the second book, but I like the fact that she wasn't forgotten and all the madness that was going on. And it's just so much. I just love the characters. I love what's going on so far. I'm probably going to end up cutting it short because my throat is giving me some really serious problems. There were 4 character deaths that I have marked in here, so I will quickly go through those just so I can keep track of them. Okay, so the first death that actually appeared in this book was Arabin's. I was really hoping he got killed in this book, and he did. Really surprised that it was Lysandra who ended up doing it and not Aelin, but I was really happy that she got to be the one to do it because of everything that he put her through as well. And the second death that I have marked is Roland's, which was Dorian's cousin. He was taken along with Caltaine, I think, back in book 2, like the end of book 2. It was mentioned that the two of them were supposed to be traveling with parenting to Marath or something like that, and turns out that he ended up having one of these demon prisons put inside of him, and he was killed by Manon. And then the other death, or it's really multiple deaths that I have marked, is all the palace guards that had worked under Kel, the ones he was really close to. The last death that I have marked is Caltaine. So I was really hoping that Caltaine would be one of those characters who survived at least until close to the end, but I like the fact that she died on her own terms. It still sucks that she had to die. And then the last one, which I actually didn't mark, and I think I marked because I don't actually think that he's dead, but the king apparently was also killed, but there wasn't a body, so I have a feeling that he's not actually dead, so I don't know about that, but obviously we'll see later on, or I'll see later on in the series. Sorry I ended up cutting it short, but like I said, I'm getting sick. I keep coughing, and I'm like coughing so bad that I'm like starting to gag, and it's not good. So I'm just cutting this here. Like I said when I first started this wrap up portion of this is my favorite book of the series so far. I have this feeling that it could only get better from here, but as far as my rating, I decided to give this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. There were moments where I was really annoyed, and I might have been nitpicking at certain things. Now, I didn't drop my rating because of Kel. Like, I almost wanted to drop it because of Kel, but that was his character, so I can't fault the story for the character. But there were moments like where I felt the story was really repetitive, so anytime certain things were mentioned, like it was mentioned over and over. So anytime Aelin was thinking about the king, she was like, the destroyer, the people who killed my, or the man who killed my family, the man who destroyed my kingdom. And it was like every single time that she was thinking about him, or it was any mention of him, that was like she would do stuff like that. And I was just like, why do we need to repeat this over and over? Or I saw someone else mention this, but every time she thought about Rowan, there was a mention of his pineness, no smell. Like, I think a couple times here and there is okay, but overall, little things like that was just too much for me. And I definitely think this book didn't need to be as long as it was. I think not a lot, but there were filler moments that weren't needed. But overall, like I said, I really enjoyed the characters, really enjoyed the story, and I can't wait to see where this goes from here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe so you can see more from me. That's all I have for this one. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.